Okay, good afternoon, guys, or good morning, whenever you're watching this, because I've no doubt a lot of you watch on replay. I've got Martin Baines with me today from Martin Baines Learning Solutions. Martin is the expert in all things sales and sales solutions. No pressure. So I will let you introduce yourself, Martin.
Thanks, Sally. Hi, everybody. Martin Baines, that's me. That's not me in the picture behind, but that's me. That's my business, Martin Baines Learning Solutions. So I've got scarily more than 28 years of commercial sales, sales management, and learning and development experience under my belt, any number of jobs in any number of sectors and industries. And I've done 13 years in learning and development, sales training. So I set my business up back in 2012, and I work with business owners who generally they love what they do, they're great at what they do, and they love running a business. But when you say that word sales to them, they kind of run a mile, because I think for a lot of people, the whole concept of selling has very negative connotations. So I kind of work with business owners, and of course in the corporate world with in-house sales teams, to help them overcome some of the barriers that they have in terms of selling their products and services, so that they can be more confident in selling and make more profit and make more sales. So that's me.
Very much, sir. I know we met, it must be about a year or so ago now.
Yeah.
I think, was it through LinkedIn? I was thinking, because I'm rubbish at, I was rubbish at selling until I took a Martin Baines course. And now I'm learning, I'm on the selling learning curve. Because it is quite a difficult one. People I know when I first started out, hence the reason I reached out to you at the time, was that what was my thing to you was I didn't want to meet myself on the other end of the phone.
I remember you saying.
My corporate bitch self, it was what the term was. I just didn't want to meet me, and it scared the life out of me.
You're not like that in real life, though. Let's be honest.
No,
You're
I'm not.
like that.
I just was in my corporate days. So
Yeah.
it would be like,
and I think, and I say it to a lot of people, nobody wants free gas or electricity at 8 o'clock at night, do they? Because in normal times, we're sat at home, we're having dinner, having been out, having been at work. And if the phone rings at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, and it's somebody trying to sell us something, we just are not interested. Or if you're walking through the shopping centre, remember those days when we could go out, you're walking through the shopping centre and you get pounced on by somebody going, buy this, sign up for this. And it just has this connotation of pressure. And nobody wants to be sold to. We all like to make an informed buying decision for ourselves. And actually, it's about helping people to buy. But I think that this whole perception, and I don't know where it comes from. Maybe it's back in the 1980s with the second-hand car salesman, or the Everest double glazing. Nothing against Everest, but you know what I mean, the PPI type approach. And for a lot of people, they think, oh my goodness, am I going to come across like that to others? So that intrinsically within them, I think, and maybe subconsciously, gives them a lack of confidence. And I don't want to come across like this to other people. So they kind of almost steer away from it in some sense. But as a business owner, whether you like it or not, you work in sales. Whether it's networking, you're promoting yourself, you're selling yourself all of the time. And it's a well-worn phrase, isn't it? It's one that I actually believe in 100%. People buy from people they know, they like, and they trust. So you're always selling yourself. And even in the family environment, one person wants to watch one channel, one person wants to watch another. You have to sell your ideas, and it's how you communicate. But I just think lots of people paint this negative picture of selling as a concept, when it isn't really all snake oil peddling, polyester shirts, big ties, big pinstripe suits, spiky hair. It conjures up all of those things, doesn't it? When it doesn't have to be like that.
I know. I think for me, as soon as you switched it around to say that, it was, you were actually serving somebody in some respects. You weren't selling to them, you were helping them buy, helping them make a decision. That switched it for me, because for me, I say I became the deer in the headlights with this whole the word sales. It still does it to me, I must admit, but I then do what you taught me, which is to switch that across so that you're actually helping somebody here, and actually you're helping yourself as well.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? It's not, these things get hardwired into us. And they can be quite difficult to change the wiring system in the brain. Crikey, I'm not a neurology expert, but you know, the neurons connect, and there's lots of things. And I know when people say, I know you said it, confidence, and I run sessions saying, what are some of the attributes for success when it comes to selling? And I don't mean products and services, I mean you as an individual. What are those attributes? And a lot of the time people say confidence, but actually that's an intangible, isn't it? And what makes you think somebody is confident? What is it about somebody? And I ask this question, you know, think of famous people, think of movie stars or politicians or whatever it may be, but just to kind of, you know, what is it that you say to yourself, oh, that person seems confident? Because for me, confidence comes from behaviors, observable behaviors, and the core components of communication face to face are words, tone, and body language. And we all know when we are confident and we understand something, we are able to talk with more confidence about that. And it's the way that we communicate and the way that we come across. But how do you get confident when it comes to selling products and services? I think it's critically important to know where you want to go, what the result is of any conversation that you're having with somebody. And the more that you can turn that around and stop selling to people, but start helping people to buy, the easier it becomes. Because actually, when you get practiced, customers will sell to themselves. But actually, it's some of the techniques, and it's not manipulative and it's not smoke and mirrors, but some of the techniques that I talk about, it's selling, but actually it's in a way that helps me as a potential customer sell the solution to myself. So for me, it's critical to understand, and I know we've been talking about it this week, the customer buying journey, the steps that we all go through as consumers. You know, we've got a problem, a want, a need. It's an awareness. That's the first step of the buying process. So the more you can understand what the problems, the wants, the needs, I call them pain points, the real pain points that your prospects have typically. Because if you work in a sector, in an industry, you sell certain products and services, typically you will find that your prospects will have similar problems, similar wants, similar needs. So understanding those makes it a lot easier to come up with a solution. But it's also understanding the dozens of touch points that every single customer has with us on their journey, which can take weeks, months, and for some people, years of communication. And it's about having a process, but nobody wants to be processed. So it's taking people through their buying journey in a way that makes it easy for them to buy. You know where you are in the process on that journey, but you're not putting them through in a rigid way that makes them feel uncomfortable. So knowing the steps on the journey, knowing what you're doing, being able to signpost your prospect in a way that there's no surprises for you. This is what's going to happen. What I'd like to do is understand a little bit about what's going on in your business, in your world, whatever it may be. We'll ask some questions and we'll come up with a solution that hopefully will work for you. There's no surprises. But I think, I don't know, in my experience, a lot of people, it's as you said, you don't want to meet you on the other end of the phone.
No, but saying that, you did switch that for me quite recently when we had this conversation, because you said, didn't you need support at that time? I said, well, yeah, I did. So me, you know, as a coach reaching out now to somebody like myself then would spot that there is a real pain there, that, you know, I was really struggling. and would have needed the help. And it's just as you say, hitting that, finding that pain point, knowing there's a pain point there, and how to actually talk about that and help. Because actually I see it now that it would have helped me. It would have helped me a lot quicker, rather than me falling flat on my face like I did.
Yes, and you know, a lot of people, and there's kind of, and I know we've spoken about this, there's kind of a conundrum here, because when you work in sales, and I say it all the time and I'll say it again, we all work in sales. When you work in sales, you'll always get more people say no to you than say yes. That's just the nature of it. But for a lot of people, they struggle with that, because as human beings, we seek acceptance. We want to be liked. We want to be accepted. And there's a bit of a fight here, because it becomes a personal thing, a personal rejection. Oh my goodness, I can't pick up the phone because what if they say no? Well, actually, they're not saying no to you as a human being. It's never personal. We certainly hope it's never personal. And I say, you know, if we were, and I excuse the brain surgeons who might be listening to this broadcast, if we were to wheel somebody in on a trolley and say, would you go and perform some brain surgery on that person? The majority of people would be like, whoa, no, I can't do that. But that doesn't make you any less valuable as a human being. It just means that you haven't got the knowledge, the skills, and the ability to be a brain surgeon. Does the fact that somebody might say no to you in a sales interaction make you any less valuable as a person? Of course it doesn't. So it's never personal. It's the real you versus the role that you are playing. And I use Shakespeare, isn't it? I wasn't very well educated. But all the world is a stage, and we're all actors. And actually, to a degree, when we're in a selling situation, it's not about being a performer, but you're acting. It's not personal. And the more you can accept that, then you become more confident. And I've spoken to, I coached a coach, not you. I coached a coach about telephone prospecting. And one of the first questions was, what's your hope, your anticipation when you pick up the phone to do some calling? And they said, I hope nobody answers. And it's crazy, because then I don't have to talk to anybody. But all of this stuff, and I'm not a psychologist, but a lot of this stuff comes from beneath the surface in our learned behaviors, our conscious and some unconscious biases. Nobody likes rejection. So, you know, maybe something happened as a kid, and I don't want to press bruises in anybody's worlds, but, you know, this person, we opened up and there'd been lots of stuff that had happened to her as a child in terms of rejection and bullying and all of this kind of stuff. So subconsciously, it becomes this, I don't want to expose myself, this fight or flight mechanism. But the more that you can recognize that it is not personal and it's just the role that you are doing, the easier it becomes. And actually, that in itself, for a lot of people, helps them become more confident, because they know it's just a throwaway comment, I know, but it's a numbers game. So you know, it's not throw enough and some of it will stick, because you've got to speak to the right people. But not every person that you talk to will be somebody who's suitable in the first instance for your products and services. So get rid of those. Look for people to say no, because I'd rather know now that you're not going to buy and that we're not right for each other than we go through a whole interaction and it takes weeks and it takes months, and I chase and I follow up and I chase and I follow up, and you're just becoming a busy fool. So actually look for people to say no. Expect them to say no.
I think especially now more than ever, because it's you know, much as people are saying that people aren't in buying mode, that is absolute rubbish. I mean, even our Hermes delivery man, I mean, I think he lives at this house because my daughter is going mad with her furloughed wages at the moment. But I said to him today, I said, you know, you're a bit busy. Then he said, it's worse than Christmas. Yeah.
But it is interesting. And again, I like the quotes. Henry Ford, whether you think you can do something or whether you think you can't do something, you're right. And the brain does not know the difference between right and wrong, positive and negative, yes and no, acceptance and rejection. It will set out to achieve whatever you tell it to. Nobody's buying. Funnily enough, you won't sell anything. And I see it all the time with sales teams. Prospecting. Nobody likes prospecting because it conjures up these images of cold calling and disturbing people at 8 o'clock at night. So it doesn't work. Prospecting doesn't work. Well, of course it doesn't work because you've told yourself it doesn't work. And what you'll do is, as you go through that process of prospecting, you'll convince yourself that it doesn't work. So at the end, you can go, see, told you, don't work. You failed before you start.
That was me originally, wasn't it? You're just talking about me.
I'll never get through to managing directors. They won't talk to me. Of course they won't talk to you because you've convinced yourself that they won't talk to you. You know, in simple terms, to be successful, you need 3 things. You need knowledge, process, product, services, systems, competitors, legislation, if that's the line of business that you're in. You need to understand your customers. You need skills, and there's any number: listening skills, rapport building, communication skills, objection handling, negotiating, all of that. Knowledge, skills, and mindset. And actually, those 6, 7, 8 inches between your ears are the most critical thing, because when you get your mindset right, then you're halfway there already. So actually expect to be put through to managing directors. Why wouldn't they talk to you? Of course they'll talk to you. Oh no, head teachers will never talk to me. I'm running a well-being program for schools. They won't unless you actually believe that they will. It all begins with belief. So we are, a lot of the time, I think we are our own worst enemy because we are that hard on ourselves, and it doesn't need to be that way. But I get it because it comes from those conditioned, learned behaviors that we have had. But I'm fairly confident in saying that I don't think we're born with a fear of picking up the telephone and talking to people.
No, we are only born with one fear, and that is the fear of noise. So anything else we create in our heads.
Yes, it's learned, which is great, by the way, because if it's a learned fear, it can be unlearned. And a lot of the time, I reframe, using an NLP term there, I reframe fear. And again, I don't want to press bruises, but do people have any phobias like the dentist or flying, or there's been some random ones that I've had in my time, a fear of coat hangers, true story. I didn't go any further. But actually, is it always as bad as you think it's going to be after the event? Probably not. So if you look at fear as an acronym of FEAR, and you use that as false evidence appearing real, then there's nothing to be afraid of. What's the worst that can happen in any of this stuff? Seriously, people will say no. So what? Look for people to say no. And don't be afraid of picking up the phone and talking to people. Because if you have that, and I use the analogy of a seesaw, the seesaw is balanced and you are 2 adults having an adult to adult conversation. You build rapport, you have a relationship, you understand the journey that you're going through, then you're helping people to buy. But I think from previous experience, nobody wants gas or electricity at 8 o'clock at night. We think, oh my goodness, I'm going to come across as being all pushy.
They do. Yes, no, that is very true. So how did you learn all these traits then, sir? Where did you start in life?
28, I shudder to think, plus years. The very first job I had, if you can call it a proper job, was I was a holiday rep.
Oh, wow.
So on the island of Mallorca, I don't remember that much about it, to be honest with you, but that's for a different conversation altogether. So holidaymakers would book their package holidays, I'd meet them at the airport, and I would look after a couple of hotels, and actually you'd do the welcome meetings and be selling excursions and trips and all of this kind of stuff. But crikey, I've had any number of jobs. I I did the travel for professional golfers on the European tour for
Oh,
2 years,
wow.
which is great as somebody who grew up playing golf. Perfect job. And if you think customers can complain, crikey, you should talk to professional golfers. But I was selling the travel, looking after them and doing all of that sort of stuff. I've worked in call centers, refunding lost and stolen travelers checks, remember them.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Direct sales in insurance, telesales. I've worked in leisure and hospitality, selling golf days, golf events. So I've sold cars for a living. Please don't hold it against me. Account management, corporate sales, you name it. And actually, I've fallen through all of the trapdoors. I've made all of the mistakes and then some, because I didn't get any formal training until I started selling cars back in 2004, and I ended up on a sales training course in Milton Keynes in central England for Audi. And that was the first formal training that I had. And it was, there's your phone, there's your desk, meetings at 8:30. Let us know what you're selling today. That's the only training I ever had, which was none. So it took 15, 20 years to get any training. And actually the guy who trained me, I kept in touch with him and he saw something in me. So it's his fault. He said, if you ever fancy to change, I think you'd be quite good at this. But actually, and any number of jobs that I've hated, like literally hated. I mean, do you know Vic Vapo Rub? Do you know that stuff?
Yes.
That stinks. I used to rub that under my eyes to make my eyes run. True story. So that I could feign illness and go for interviews in the jobs that I hated. But I'm glad now that I've been through that.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely have made all the mistakes. And actually, having made them, I like to think that I'm in a position to help and work with people so that they can avoid them.
So what's the biggest, I was going to say, going around that, from what you've learned, what's the biggest tip you would give people on this journey?
Yeah,
obviously we're all having to relearn things, I think, at the moment. Especially
absolutely. And it might be a strange one you're not expecting from somebody who runs a sales training company. And I do a lot of keynote talks now as well, sales ones and others. And the first few that I did were about my story. And I titled that talk, The 5 Most Important Words in the World. And it was about my story, my upbringing. I won't go into it. And 13 jobs in 20 years and made redundant 3 times. And actually, the guy who trained me was the first person to really see something in me. So my top tip are those 5 words. And those 5 words are, it all begins with belief. If you believe you can, if you believe in something, then you're halfway there. If you believe you can, or you believe you can't, you're right. And actually, it took somebody to see something in me to get me, and I wouldn't be running my own business in year 8 had he not seen something in me. But experience has told me that the best person to believe in you is you. And it's difficult, trust me, because in the first few years of our lives, we are conditioned. That drives our value system and our beliefs as human beings, what we see, what we think of the world, what we think of other people, what we think of ourselves as individuals, our whole self-esteem stuff. And that's hardwired in.
Don't show off, don't say how good you are, don't do this, don't do that.
Yeah, exactly. Don't talk about money. You'll never be any good at this. And people believe that stuff because that then forms the attitudes that we have about ourselves. It drives the way we feel about ourselves. And actually, that pops itself up in our observable behaviors. If we don't think we're worthy of doing this, or we've got this imposter syndrome, that will come across in the way you communicate, your words, your tone, your body language. The best person, but of all of the things that run below the surface, the attitude bit is the one you absolutely have the control over, because you can choose your attitude in any given situation. It's difficult because we live on autopilot.
Absolutely.
But the split second And it might just be a split second between somebody saying something and somebody doing something and you responding. You always have a choice as to how you respond. And I love another quote, Stephen Covey: 10% of life is what happens to you, i.e. you can't control, but 90% of life is how you respond to it. But we live on these conditioned behaviors, but until you realize that you can press pause on that and choose how you respond, choose what you believe, and the best person to do that, and we can all do it, trust me, we can all do it. The best person to do that is you. So my top tip in everything, and it's not just necessarily in sales, is it all begins with belief. Believe you can do it and you will be able to do it. But it needs support, it needs help. And having worked in professional sport, there's lots of comparisons. You know, you look at, I don't know, Andy Murray. He didn't just turn up one day and win Wimbledon. He trains. He works on his game, he works on his mindset, he works on his knowledge, his skills. And that's kind of where I come in to help people develop, because if you're not working on your game, it's only going to go one way, and that's downhill. And actually, when you put it into a sales environment, if I'm considering a purchase, I'm going to be talking to one or two of your competitors as well. So if you're not working on your game, you're just going to be like everybody else, and you're not going to be able to differentiate yourself.
Again, it's especially at the moment, isn't it? It's
100%. For me, it's what are you doing to differentiate yourself in the way you take that prospect through their buying journey? How are you different from your competitors? Because if all you are doing, and you know, belief systems, people have negative beliefs about people in sales because they've had negative previous experiences.
Yeah.
If all you're doing is reinforcing those, you said you were going to follow up and you didn't bother, for example, then you're just like everybody else.
Yeah.
But actually, there's no magic bullet. And a lot of the time, it's the simplest of things that can be the difference, that makes a difference and makes me go, yes, I'll buy from you. But there's lots of steps along the way. And, you know, that's where I bring 28 plus years of experience to help and support and work with. Because when you work with and you have this accountability on an ongoing basis, because we all doubt ourselves, we're human beings, crikey. Nobody's perfect. But it's being able to support and use experiences and help people come up with, in true coaching style, solutions for themselves, because people buy into that if they've come up with that themselves. But it's keeping you accountable and supporting you and building your confidence, which will help you consistently deliver results in terms of sales.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for this today. I found it useful, because I always find it useful talking to you. You always kick my ass on the sales front. Martin, where can people find you? Because obviously I'm pretty sure after this they'll need to reach out to you.
So if you have a look, you can't see it on that on my banner because it's down the bottom. My website is www.mb, my initials, ls.co.uk. I do spend quite a bit of time on LinkedIn, which is my social media platform of choice. So it's linkedin.com/IN/MB-sales training. But Martin at mb-ls.co.uk is my email address, and hopefully if you just put Martin Baines Learning Solutions in a search, you'll find me. But happy to have a conversation with anybody, and really appreciate you inviting me along to share some of my thoughts on becoming more confident in selling.
No, it's my pleasure. I know you've helped me, so this was worth it to anybody who's thinking about working with you. Just
and
do it.
Gratuitous plug on May the 18th. May the 18th. I think you're going to put the link in. But I'm going to be helping people become more confident. I've got an online program, and it's called confidence in selling in confidence, selling with
Brilliant.
confidence. Can't even remember what it's called now, but it's going to be on Facebook. So
We'll
it's
put the
free.
link in anyway with the video.
It's not going to cost you anything at all. I will get you to do some work. It's going to be on the Facebook platform, but yeah, have a look at the link. You can register. It starts on the 18th of May, which is the Monday, but you can duck in and out during each day. So I'm going to be putting some tasks each morning for you to go away and look at, do a video in the morning, but you can do it throughout the day, so you don't have to commit to a certain time. But I would love to see as many people as possible on that. So that's selling with confidence on Facebook.
Well, I'm going to be there. So
awesome.
I'll be hanging
but that
out.
link will be on with this. So yeah, come and find me, come and have a chat, let's connect, and let's help you get more confident selling your products and services.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that today. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thanks for listening.
Okay.